What I would tell myself, truly what I have told myself and what I do, what I would tell a client that's like, I just want in and out. Like, I just want to be done. My response is, okay, you can do that, but I promise you it's going to show up somewhere else. And then you're going to try to respond to it the same usual way that you do. It's not fixing it that's the problem. It's the way that you're responding. It's taking the same energy and applying it to something else. And then eventually your brain is not going to benefit from the usual way in which you do things. And I understand that I'm asking you a lot to change your pace and change the way in which you respond, but I'm not just trying to help your pain. I'm trying to help the way in which you respond to so many things in life.
Hi, my name's Lawrence Joss, and welcome to the Family Disappeared podcast. And today's the day. I am really excited for this podcast. We're going to be interviewing Vanessa Blackstone. She's the executive director at Pain Psychology Center. So we're going to be talking about chronic pain, the emotional components and the physical components of that, and why this is so important in our community. Is so much of us develop pain and other physical attributes through this process of parental alienation, estrangement, or erasure, and our bodies start to shut down in different ways, and then we start to lock up in these different kind of cycles, and it affects our relationships with ourselves, with our family, with our kids, and is a shadow that we don't really discuss often, but it is something that I need to work on my physical pain symptoms, because if I don't, it affects how I can show up and how integrated I can show up. And for me personally, chronic pain has been a big part of my journey. And there'll be a podcast after this where I'm just sharing part of my journey and what's happened with chronic pain in my life and the effects it's had on my children, on the family system, and on our relationships today. So this episode is phenomenal. Vanessa is a hoot. She's really, really, really fun to talk to. And if you're a parent or grandparent or child and you get anxious about sending that email, that text, or interacting with a family member and your body starts to hurt, or you have other kinds of symptoms come up, this is phenomenal, and it's low hanging fruit. It's really accessible. There's a wonderful book called The Way Out that I read. They're coming out with a workbook, and it's cool. This is cool stuff. So put on your seatbelt, sit down, grab something cold to drink, or not. Do it a different way. But I'm really excited for the show. If you're new to the community, welcome to the community. We're a 501c3 nonprofit. We'd love your support. If you have the resources, there's a link in the show notes to donate. We also have a free support community. We'd love to have you come join. We got 17, 18 meetings a week. The link will be in the show notes too. And our email's in the show notes, familydisappeared@gmail.com. If you got a comment, a guest to suggest, or anything else in that realm. And I think that's enough of me. Let's get into the episode. Wow, I've been on this journey of parental alienation for a long time. And for folks that are new to the show, for the first 8-9 years, I didn't even know what parental alienation was. And I started doing a tremendous amount of emotional and spiritual work. And what happened for me is I started to develop physical pain. For me, it was chronic pelvic pain, which is like a burning in my pelvis, and really took away my life. My life went from being really, really big and struggling with parental alienation to really, really, really small and struggling with parental alienation. And whether it was talking to my kids or just trying to get some, feel like I was loved or appreciated as a father, or anything, I just started having all this anxiety in my body, and the anxiety at a point turned into physical pain. And I went to see the specialist and the doctors, and I wasn't in the middle of the bell curve, so they wanted to operate or they wanted to give me medication and stuff like that, but no one was actually listening to the pain that I was in or understanding it. And it took a long, long journey, and I'm just coming to pain reprocessing therapy in the last like 6 months or so. And it is life changing. If you're struggling with any kind of residual pains or pains that are result from parental alienation, estrangement, or erasure, or just other pains that get exasperated when you're trying to reach out or send an email or something like that, this episode is going to be life changing. This is wonderful, wonderful information. And even if you're not struggling with physical pain, but you have a lot of anxiety and you have other things going on in your life, this process is fantastic for just slowing down, getting back into your body, really understanding what's going on. And it's really about all the stuff we've been talking about. It's about doing the work, and it's about doing your interpersonal work. And and it's life changing. And I wouldn't be here without the pain. If I wasn't in a lot of physical pain and my life didn't completely fall apart because of the physical pain, I never would have started a podcast. I would never have been involved in this community because I would have just bypassed everything. And the physical pain brought me to a place where I had to do this work. And I'm really grateful for it. And it sucked. And I don't want it anymore. And I don't have much. So I'm really, really grateful for that. And before we jump into the show, I just want to let you know that Vanessa has graciously donated a 50-minute consultation session for free and the brand new workbook that's coming out in November. She will mail that out too once that is published. So what you need to do, you need to put a Vanessa Rocks in the comments on any of our social media channels. Be much easier and useful to do it on the YouTube channel because that's a little bit easier to track, but put it wherever you want and we will try track everyone. And 2 weeks after the episode is launched, we will give out that free consultation and book to the winner. So let's get in there. Let's see what this conversation's about. Vanessa, it's so great to have you here, and I'm really, really, really excited for this conversation. And I'd like to give you an opportunity to introduce yourself to the community. So if you can please go ahead, that'd be wonderful.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I'm happy to be here. So my name is Vanessa Blackstone. I am the executive director of the Pain Psychology Center and co-author of a workbook that will be released November 1st called the Pain Reprocessing Therapy Workbook. At PPC, we specialize in the treatment of chronic pain, what we call neuroplastic pain, with the modality of pain reprocessing therapy, where we teach folks to change the way in which they respond to chronic pain, ultimately changing their neural pathways, reducing and or eradicating their pain overall.
Thank you, Vanessa. And again, it's great to have you here. And I appreciate that quick explanation of PRT. And like for the layperson out there, like we're experiencing pain, our body yells, fire, get out. And then we just fall into these like different cycles. And what you're saying is you learn how to reprocess that in a different way so people don't stay stuck in that automatic response. That's basically what you're saying is.
Yeah, the way that you said that is great because it's like our brains get stuck on this on switch. And we've tried everything, talked to different specialists, tried different medications, probably even tried or consulted on a variety of different surgeries. And sometimes we don't realize that our brain is kind of running the ship, driving the ship here, right? Running the ship, steering the ship, steering the ship. It's like, how do you drive a ship? Steering the ship, right? And so our brains are steering that ship. Mine was not steering in that moment. And what happens is we don't realize that we can actually take over, that we can recognize that all pain comes from your brain, even when you break your ankle. But sometimes your brain gets stuck. And what we're trying to do within our modality is help folks get unstuck by providing tools and psychoeducation to change the way in which we respond, to change the relationship with our body.
Thank you for that. And so we're having this physical pain, right? And then we have emotional pain too. And can you explain the connection between the emotional trauma and how it turns physical, the physical trauma and emotional? Like, where's that intersectionality between the two of them?
Yeah, so the way that I describe it to my own clients is that it comes from the same part of your brain. That's why we feel it the same. That's why the impact is the same. I like to use a fun, lighthearted example, if it fits, is think about it this way. Let's say that you are going into a situation where you know that you're going to do something that you're really nervous about, whether it's getting on a plane, whether it's dealing with confrontation, or whether it's just speaking in front of a group of your peers. Your brain knows that that is something that you have struggled with before. It knows to prepare for that. It knows to do what I like to call bracing for impact. It knows that I don't like it here, and your brain does its job by telling you in your body, I am uncomfortable. And your brain is like a dog where it can't talk to you when something's wrong, but it shows you. And it's a guessing game. If you have a dog or an infant or plants, you know that it's kind of angsty to just watch it and hope that you're doing okay and getting it right and hoping that your way of approaching it is resolving it. But unfortunately, sometimes your way of approaching it can make it worse, right? The way that we respond to ourselves when we're going into a situation that we know we're preparing for to feel anxious, Your brain can respond to it by trying to figure out what's going on, but sending you a danger signal when you don't need it, right? And the way that we feel that physically is the same as it would be a positive situation, like falling in love or kissing someone for the first time. We know to associate that sensation as butterflies in your stomach. It has a positive connotation. The sensation is exactly the same, speaking in front of your peers, getting on a plane, versus falling in love or kissing someone for the first time. But our brain is interpreting the situations differently based on past experiences. So we're getting the same sensation, but our brain is going dangerous or safe, right? So that is how we can kind of connect back to the role of emotions and pain, how it comes from the same part of our brain, our relationship to those experiences, and how our brain sends a signal to our body and how we interpret that signal based on the information that we know.
And thank you for that. And to contextualize it for anyone out there in the community, like when I'm texting a child that's not in contact with me and I'm just throwing this text out into outer space, right? I'm preparing for danger. It's scary. It's vulnerable. Or if I'm sending an email, or if I'm having a conversation with one of my children and I'm in the middle of parental alienation or estrangement, my body is kicked up. It's waiting for a negative situation to happen. Whether a negative situation happens or not, I'm already kicked up. And I appreciated you bringing in kind of like the animals, and it's kind of like the Pavlov experience where you get a stimulation, then you get used to that stimulation, you just keep acting the same way over and over again to that stimulation because your brain is trained that way. That's more of a layman's kind of understanding, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
So the body has a physical response to this emotional trauma, and the body locks up, goes into a contraction. Like, what's physically happening on the physical level when we're entering into an email, a text, a conversation, an airplane, whatever it is? What's happening on the physical side of things with the actual internal body? Is that an okay question?
Yeah, that's an okay question. Absolutely. I know where you're going. So, what happens is we get caught in what we call the pain fear cycle, right? Well, the pain fear cycle more so has to do with like experiencing pain and fear as a result that keeps like adding fuel on the fire type of example. So, I guess more so what I can explain here is when we are going into a situation where we know that we're going to be uncomfortable because of past experiences, what happens is your brain does its job and it kind of gears you up, gets you ready, right? And by doing that, it sends you physical sensations to the body. For example, when I go into difficult conversations, I get really hot. That's just my danger signal. I automatically get hot. I get really sweaty. I have to put my big curly hair up. I feel the need to like fan my sweater. I move a lot. I will like fidget with my necklace. Those are all my little body cues that say I am uncomfortable. And that usually happens around confrontation. Right. And so when I do that, when I start fidgeting with my necklace, or when I start moving around a lot, or trying to readjust my hair, or fanning myself, what I'm doing is I am saying this sensation is dangerous. I'm telling myself that I am too hot. And if I don't do these things, then I'm going to get worse. Right. So what happens in these situations is that we don't understand oftentimes the physical sensations that we experience are a result of a cycle that our brain has us in because it associates confrontation with danger. But we can actually learn that confrontation, though uncomfortable, does not have to necessarily be dangerous. It is often the way in which we respond to it. Your brain is trying to help you by saying, I'm having an uncomfortable conversation or I feel unsafe with this person. And your brain is doing a very good job trying to keep you safe. But think about it this way: sometimes your brain is a helicopter parent. When you're trying to play on the playground with your friends and your brain's like, oh my gosh, be careful. And it is responding with a lot of hypervigilance. It's trying to help you, but it's sending you signals that are scaring you, having you feel like you might not be able to handle this, or this is really dangerous, or this isn't something that we can go into feeling like we have a way out, right? And so the way that we like to interpret it in our work is helping folks understand the signals that their brain are sending to their body and why. Who are the people that are contributing to these signals? What do these people mean? What are these triggering environments, the sensations, or just other sensory information around us? Getting to know it before we make it go away so that we can understand how to accurately respond to the physical sensations being sent to our body based on, like what you were saying, an uncomfortable situation like sending a text or an email in a situation where we know the relationship is tense or estranged.
Thank you for that, and I really appreciate you articulating your personal physical experience and the heat and the fanning and the necklace, and that for most folks, like we don't really identify with our body, as a lot of us are cut off and we can't really feel anything. So it sounds like you've done a substantial amount of work to identify these physical sensations that happen in your body. And how does a person start to identify or pay attention? Do they journal? Like, what do people start to do to start identifying like the precursors or the leading up to getting highly elevated or upregulated?
Yeah, I have done a lot of my own work, and it's really helped me in my work, both personally but professionally as well. And so the way that we can kind of get started here, this is a question that I ask my own clients. I ask my clients, let's start to identify the things that happen in your body that fall under the category of a conditioned response. Like you said, the Ivan Pavlov kind of classical conditioning. I use the same conversation with my own clients, right? What happens when you do X, Y, and Z? Or I like to say tell clients, when you have a this happens when this happens type of sentence, right? Like I get pain when I sit down, that's a conditioned response, right? And so I'll kind of give them some examples and break it down, help them identify some areas in which they know they have something happen when they're in an uncomfortable situation.
Thank you. And so what I'm hearing you say is like for me, if I just start tracking body sensations, if my body starts to hurt, if it hurts to sit, if I start to get a headache, like is that like a precursor what you work with your patients to start looking at those triggers that they're experiencing? And is that done like journaling? Is that done like in consultation with you folks? How do people start to work on that?
A lot of different ways in which people approach that. I think that journaling is a great way to document and process and be able to write down the things that we experience. For some people, I notice that journaling ends up, they have a hard time with it, right? It's the consistency, it's connecting with it. So a lot of the times we will rely on our time talking together. And we'll use the 50 minutes that we have in our sessions together at our practice to really create space to process all of these things that it's the job of the therapist or the coach to write out for that client or point out for them so that we can circle back to them at a later session. I think another opportunity to, and this is kind of funny, but sometimes I tell my clients to record audios of themselves. If they have a hard time talking, record an audio and send it to me in a text so that I can hear it and I can kind of document it for you so that we can revisit it in our next session, right? However, you have to start to get ready to recognize what happens. What is my conditioned response with my pain, with my anxiety, with the discomfort that I have in navigating this estranged relationship? What happens in my body when I do this?
That's great. And, just so folks out there, like I've struggled with chronic pain now for 10 or 12 years. And in the early years, I got pelvic pain and I couldn't really relate it to an emotion. I couldn't relate it to anything. I would just start having this burning in my pelvis. And then I think that the world's going to end. And then it just kept feeding itself and it kept getting worse and worse and worse. And I couldn't really track an experience, a telephone call, a text, anything to it because I was totally cut off. And when I say cut off, I was like head up. I was in my head. I was cognitive, but I couldn't feel anything in my body. And once I started using some of these tools that we're going to be talking about, I could start to track. Oh, I just had a thought about my daughter. My pelvis started to burn. Oh, I'm going to see my mom. I'm starting to clam up, work, whatever it is, or something to do with the kids. So I think that is wonderful. And you also mentioned something about getting to know the pain. And I know for me personally, pain, I want to run. I don't want to know you. Get out of my house. Like it's so counterintuitive to get to know the pain. But can you talk about a little bit about the getting to know the pain process and why that's so important?
Yeah, I mean, look, the instinct within you, the survival part of you is the part that wants to run away. I like to tell my clients like that's the best part of you. That part of you is really strong, really good at surviving, really good at trying to keep yourself safe. Your brain is trying to protect you by sending you this signal of pain, and you are trying to protect yourself by getting the hell away from it. The problem is that when we don't understand why the pain is being sent to our body in the first place. I see this oftentimes with people when they're going to physical therapy as the main means of getting rid of their pain. Now, there's nothing wrong with physical therapists, and I work with many, many wonderful physical therapists who integrate the mind body connection work in their practice. But when we're using it as the only means of resolving our pain, when our pain is coming from a neuroplastic component of our nervous system, right? What happens is that that physical therapy is not going to help your pain because it's not due to a structural issue. It's due to an overuse of danger signals from your nervous system where your brain thinks that you're constantly in danger because of these things that you are experiencing in your life that are triggering your nervous system. You're going to use that physical therapist to the umpteenth degree that you can. And when it doesn't work, you're just going to move on to something else. The reason that it's so important to take a step back and understand where pain originates, why it continues to happen, and to get to know it before we make it go away so that we know how to approach something when it is here. It's kind of like the phrase, like the enemy you know is better than the enemy you don't know, right? We need to understand why it's happening and how to approach it from a neurological perspective so that we remind ourselves our body is not deteriorating inside. But in reality, we have triggers in our life, and your brain is a machine. It goes safe, not safe, and it's going to send you signals based on its perception of how you feel in certain environments or in certain interactions. And we have to take the time to understand that so that when we get a pain signal, but like you've pointed out, when you can go, oh, you know what, I was thinking about my daughter, we can start to familiarize ourselves from where it is coming from and reassure that in this moment, my brain is just trying to keep me safe because that thought makes me really sad or really anxious or really angry. And being able to understand that with self compassion and patience and empathy, being curious about the sensations in our body, it allows our brain to feel safer and safer so that it stops sending you those signals as intensely as it is or at all.
That's a curiosity I have. So we have an emotional trigger, say it's my daughter, and then we have a physical pain. And what happens first? Is it unresolved emotional trauma we're holding in our body that turns into physical pain because the body can no longer tolerate the sensation? Or does the physical pain happen, something happens to create the physical pain and then the emotional stuff pushes that loop around? Is there an order of the way that it happens?
Yeah, there's not, in my perspective, there's not really an order. There is a lot of material out there that will absolutely say that we get chronic pain from unresolved emotional trauma, and that would be 100% true. Of course, we do. Of course, we can have a history of unresolved barriers that we have not had a time to actually process. And where does your brain store it? In the body. But I also actually have many, many, many clients over the last 6 years that I've done this work. And I think maybe I'm at a point where I've seen at least over 300 people. I have had a large percentage of those clients not have any emotional trauma in their childhood and actually have a pretty good childhood. But because of their personality type, being more of like a type A personality, somebody who's really good at powering through, problem solving, possibly a people pleaser, maybe because we had to people please in order to be safe in our household growing up, and now we don't know how to turn it off. That's me. um, and the type A personality is often somebody that really thrives off of pressure, does well being in the driver's seat in their life or in their body or in any other circumstance. And what happens when we experience pain as a type A personality is it pokes and prods at every single one of our insecurities. It pokes and prods at every single thing that terrifies us. And because we're so good at powering through, we don't know how to do anything else when we actually need to slow down and take care of ourselves. And so I work with the people who reportedly say, and I can even say, have very good childhoods, but their personality does not set them up to respond to pain with patience and self awareness. And then, yes, we do have the emotional trauma, like I mentioned, in childhood or throughout our relationships that absolutely can be stored in the body and set us up to respond to pain with a sense of panic because we don't have healthy coping skills that feel reassuring to respond, not because we never had the energy to create them, but because we've been so busy surviving that we just haven't had the ability to stop and go, let me take care of myself in a way that's actually productive. This work is very counterintuitive. And I watch a lot of people slowly make it their first intuition, and it's a beautiful thing, but it can be hard in the beginning.
Mm. Yeah, I love the analogy of powering through it because as a parent, you love your kids, you want to do the right thing, and sometimes stuff is just crappy, and you just keep moving forward, expecting the right thing to happen, and like you're saying, it actually hurts and creates pain and creates cycles. And it is counterintuitive to just to slow down and take care of yourself and learn about your own body. Um, and I'm sure there's people out here listening to this that's going, "Hey, my arm hurts, my neck hurts. This is a bunch of crap. Like, why are we talking about getting to know these signals and stuff like that? Just fix it." There's that Western mentality. And like, what do you say to your clients when they come in, when they're not buying in that there's this interpersonal work and understanding your triggers and slowing down and doing these different things? Because I hear that all the time. People just want someone to cut it off, add it on, plant it, water it, color it green, and to go away, so they don't really have to deal with anything.
Mm-hmm. Maybe this feels a little firm. Sometimes I feel like I'm in this space with this work where I want to communicate everything with such a sense of like comfort and warmth. So I hope this comes off as warm because I feel like I'm in this mood lately where I've been really firm with my clients, but I hope it comes off warm. What I would tell myself, truly what I have told myself and what I do, what I would tell a client that's like, I just want in and out. Like, I just want to be done. My response is, okay, you can do that, but I promise you it's going to show up somewhere else. And then you're going to try to respond to it the same usual way that you do. It's not fixing it that's the problem. It's the way that you're responding. It's taking the same energy and applying it to something else. And then eventually your brain is not going to benefit from the usual way in which you do things. And I understand that I'm asking you a lot to change your pace and change the way in which you respond, but I'm not just trying to help your pain. I'm trying to help the way in which you respond to so many things in life, right? And so to the point where even if you are having a really, really awesome day and you're in such a good mood and you just want to appreciate it, I hope that the things that I teach you in our session allow you to go, let me slow down and just take this all in because I really deserve to feel good here. I've been through a lot. I want to feel good for once. This is my moment. I don't want to power through this. And I want you to be able to use it even then. So, not just for the pain, but this is like a foundational change in your life. And that's what I love so much about this work is because it applies not only to pain, but the anxiety that we experience and even the good moments in our life where we just want to be present, but it feels like the usual pattern of our anxiousness or our pain take us away. And this work is about getting you to enjoy and lean into all moments, whether we judge them as bad or good.
Yeah. I love that. And the relationship that this is about, every relationship in our life, the relationship with our body, our interpersonal relationships, the relationships at work, even with the dog and the cat. You know what I mean? Like, it's really a different way of opening up how we appreciate, process, slow down, and then we get to manage our lives in a different way. And it's interesting. Like, I came to The Way Out, which is a book by Alan Gordon, who's part of the foundation. I don't know if he is
Yeah.
the foundation. I'm not really sure what the relationship
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yes, Alan founded our practice. He created pain rate processing therapy, the modality, and then he founded the Pain Psychology Center.
Wonderful. Thank you for sharing that with me. And I actually went to someone for EMDR, which is like rapid eye therapy. And I'd done a tremendous amount of interpersonal work and emotional work. And she introduced me to Alan in a conversation. She's like, read this book. And I'm like, no. I'm
Mm-mm.
like, I know all this stuff. Like, I get all this stuff. And then we worked together for a little while, and I stopped working with her. And then I ordered the book, and, uh, and I was blown away. It took a lot of stuff that I already knew, but presented it in a way with so many different stories and so many useful tools that I was like, whoa, okay, I can take all this different information that I got from all these different places, and here's someone that's created a framework and a modality to actually use it in a useful way. And I was blown away. I really didn't think that the simplicity of what Alan expressed in the book would change my life, and it did. And I'm new to the book. I'm like 5 months, 6 months into the book. And can you talk about the book, The Way Out, a little bit, and give people a little bit more context than I just gave them? What it is, how it's useful, or anything else that might speak to you about the book? Wow. Wow, 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 wow. Vanessa got 5 wows because she's super cool, first of all. Secondly, if you're watching the podcast, in the background, she's like in this beautiful office and space she's created for herself with all these plants. And it's just like a loving environment. And talking to her and seeing the passion she has for the work that she does is just, it's all connected. It's not separate. And it's really wonderful to see someone present themselves in that way. And yeah, what a great conversation, and so much useful information for folks struggling with any kind of emotional, physical pain. And I love that there's communities out there doing healing work, right? And it's very similar to our 12-step community, where we're supporting each other and we're rowing in the same direction, and we're all experiencing some form of alienation, estrangement, or erasure, and we get to support ourselves. And what Vanessa is describing is a community of folks that are offering a wonderful service, and most of them have been through some kind of physical pain or challenges themselves. So it's not like going to someone that's just reading something from a book and trying to heal you. It's really wonderful. It's a wonderful opportunity. I highly suggest to anyone to get the book, The Way Out. And Alan Gordon's the author, and wonderful information. I can't wait for the second part of the episode. And I just want to thank you for joining us today. I hope this was useful. Please let us know if stuff like this is useful. Comment wherever it feels appropriate. Send us an email at familydisappeared@gmail.com, or yell it out a window. Maybe one of us will hear it. And thanks for coming out to play today. In case no one's told you yet today, I love you. I hope you have a beautiful day, and we will see you around the neighborhood.